Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, he, she, stays, and them, welcome back to News with Pass here on YouTube's premier channel about all things women's football. And with women's football now wrapping up on the club stage, I don't know about you, but there's something in the atmosphere, and I don't know if you can smell it, because no, it's not the rocks cooking, but it is the Women's World Cup that is just right around the corner. And here at MP, we want to celebrate all things women's football as promised in previous videos. And today we're going to be looking at some interesting little stories that you might not have known about going into the World Cup. And these don't necessarily concern one team or one country, but just a different range of countries and players who have something to play for other than just the World Cup itself. But there's a lot of history and there's a lot of legends in the making that are coming up at this World Cup. From first-time participants to legends making their final bow, here are some stories to look out for at the Women's World Cup in Australia and New Zealand later in July. And we will kick this off talking about the legend, the myth, the woman herself, Marta. Marta is 37 years of age now, and this is undoubtedly her last ever World Cup. If she makes it to the 2027 World Cup, by all means, that is a feat that needs to be commended by Marta, because she is undeniably a legend of the game. Now, Marta and Brazil are going into this year's World Cup, and unfortunately, the odds are very much stacked against them because they are looking to win their first ever Women's World Cup, at least in Marta's time, and they're going to be facing a lot of wide competition, especially from the European nations. You've got the likes of England and Spain and Germany, etc., who are going to be standing in her way. Now, Marta is a well-accomplished and seasoned veteran of the game. She has won awards left, right, and center. She has won the Women's Champions League. She's won FIFA Player of the Year time and time again, even before it was the Ballon d'Or. So she is a bona fide legend, and the only thing that is missing in her repertoire of awards is the Women's World Cup. Now, whilst the odds are stacked against her and Brazil, it'll be the best fairy tale ever for her to actually lift the trophy when all is said and done. So here's to hoping for the best for Marta and Brazil. Up next here we have the Lionesses dreaming of three consecutive awards, as they are riding a tidal wave of momentum and are seeing this first opportunity for them to become Women's World Cup champions on the back of winning the first ever finalissima between themselves and Brazil and winning the Euros themselves. Now, England are one of the undoubted favorites going into this tournament based on that form alone, but you must put into consideration the likes of the United States of America and Germany, who are also fierce contenders to actually win the World Cup. For the United States, it's retaining, and for Germany, it's to win the World Cup itself, because Germany, unfortunately, they did narrowly lose out to England in the Euros, but that kind of form alone shows you that they're definitely one to look out for when it comes to the World Cup, and they will undoubtedly be also looking for redemption after that defeat in the Euros. Speaking of England, now we're going to segue into a section that's kind of to do with England and at the same time also kind of to do with club football, because next up we're going to look at the Arsenal effect of things here. Now, if you've been following women's football, you will know that Arsenal have been plagued by a lot of ACL injuries to very key players in their squad, the likes of Beth Mead, Leah Williamson, Viviana Miedema, and Laura Wienreuter. They have all suffered ACL injuries, and those first three names would have been bona fide starters for their respective nations of England and the Netherlands to start at the World Cup. Now, both teams are going in without their MVPs, in that Beth Mead and Leah Williamson will be unable to represent England, and Viviana Miedema, as much as she had suffered an ACL early last year, she will not be able to recover in time to represent the Netherlands. So that's another factor that's going to play into the respective teams and their aspirations going into the World Cup, and potentially how far they could go in the tournament itself when July comes around. And on to our next team here, we've got Germany, who, as I mentioned just now, are looking for redemption here at the World Cup, especially after losing out on the European Championships against England. Now, Germany are a very exciting prospect as a team because they have a very young squad of female footballers who are excellent when it comes to the club football stage. and it's going to be potentially a very, very good team to watch, as not only will have they learned from the experiences of the Euros, but they'll definitely be even more hungrier because of that loss, which will fuel them to what I predict to, at the very least, the semi-finals of the tournament. But I'm not ruling out the prospect of them going all the way here and actually winning the Women's World Cup. Just a matter of overcoming the Lionesses and the USA. On a less contentious and more positive note on this next section we're covering now, we've got a couple of new debutants at the Women's World Cup. Yes, the likes of Morocco, Haiti, Panama, Vietnam, Ireland, Portugal, the Philippines, and Zambia are making their World Cup bow come July 20th. This will be the first time that these 8 nations are competing at the Women's World Cup, and I would like to wish all of these 8 nations the best of luck, and hopefully at least 4, maybe 5, even though that's a reach, of them can actually make it out of the group stage and show the world what they're made of, because this can serve as a massive launching pad not only for those national teams but even their individual players who may not have gotten the spotlight that they undeniably deserve, especially at the different stages that they are in their careers. Because for the likes of Haiti, you've got the likes of Dumone, who is just starting her senior career in club football, and you've got some legends who have gone completely unknown. So here's to hoping for the best for every single member of that nation who's going to be playing. Now on to our next point here, and this is something that I've covered in a previous video, but the World Cup kits this season are looking fantastic for the women's teams here. You've got the likes of Adidas and Nike, of course, the main players when it comes to the kits this year for the World Cup, creating very bespoke and beautiful and magnificent kits for their respective women's teams. Honestly, there are not enough superlatives or adjectives to describe just how good these kits look. And just to dive a little deeper into the importance of having your own bespoke kits, this is an indication that women's football has come so far to the point that they're able to stand on their own 2 feet and kind of dissociate themselves from the men's side of things when it comes to kits. Because a little example I'll give you is looking at the stars for the winners of the World Cups. For the German national team, it's 4, and for the women's national team, it's 2. Now, that is a huge difference in representation, because in previous kits and whatnot, you would see they would wear the same kits. The women would wear the same kits as the men's kits. And now it's become dissociated to not only just have the respective stars that correlate/correspond to the wins of the respective teams, but now fans from just a layman's perspective are now able to differentiate the difference between the men's national teams just by their kits alone and the women's national teams by their kits alone. So it's a massive step for women's football. And continuing on the trend of the next revolutions that are coming up with women's football, another point to highlight coming into the World Cup here in Australia and New Zealand is the simple fact that sponsorships are now going to be much bigger and much more profitable for the respective national teams and of course the players. Now, I did cover in a previous video about how a recent sponsorship issue that had transpired between FIFA and the national women's teams, especially their captains like the likes of Viviana Miedema, in that FIFA wanted to sponsor the Women's World Cup through Visit Saudi, and because of Saudi Arabia's unfortunate draconic laws of having women be disenfranchised to the extent that pretty much it's a sin for them to just essentially be women, it has caused a lot of friction between FIFA and the respective national teams. But in the end, FIFA did not take up that sponsorship with Visit Saudi, and as a result, a lot of sponsors are going to be looking at the Women's World Cup as an opportunity to invest. That's obviously hoping and providing that the tournament goes without a hitch, which I'm pretty sure it will, especially if the 2019 tournament in France is anything to go by. This is an opportunity for women's football to get more money invested into it, and it's going to be the onus of the respective players and the nations that they represent to give a good hell of a show for these sponsors, not only for the sponsors but especially for the fans, because ultimately what the fans say will help to stir the interest of sponsors, because if a fan says this is a fantastic match, a fantastic tournament, sponsors will see absolutely no reason as to why they should not invest. If anything, they'll be falling over themselves just to get in their money into the women's game. So here's to hoping that the tournament is immaculate and fantastic for all those involved in it, because women's football does require the sponsorship in order to take it to the next step in its evolution. And that will wrap it up for today's video. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe if you like what you've heard. The Women's World Cup is just over a month away. The 20th of July is going to be the first kickoff, and it is surely shaping up to be a fantastic World Cup. The 2019 World Cup in France was an undeniable spectacle of just great football and awesome moments from start to finish. And here's to hoping that the World Cup this year in Australia and New Zealand can just completely smash expectations and do way better than France, because this is just what's needed for women's football, like I've said. And here on the channel here at MP, we're going to be doing a lot of World Cup themed videos going forward, even prior to the World Cup and just a little bit after, where we're just going to do a review of all the matches, and hopefully, I really hope that I can bring you some in-depth reviews and analyses of matches that happen at the Women's World Cup, but that will be subject to review depending on the infrastructure resources available to me at the time. But other than that, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.